Have you ever just looked at some people and wondered, how do they just eat challenges for breakfast while other people seem to fall apart at the first hurdle? Well, today, we're getting into the answer with Carol Dweck's incredible book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. Welcome to Bookish channel, where we break down the big ideas from books that can really change the way you think. Let's dive in. So, this whole thing started with a huge surprise. The researcher, Carol Dweck, she was studying how kids cope with failure, and she stumbled onto something she just never saw coming. Some kids didn't just deal with it, they actually seemed to enjoy it. One 10-year-old, when faced with a really tough puzzle, literally beamed and said, "I love a challenge." And that's when Dweck had this aha moment. These kids weren't just okay with failing, they didn't even see it as failing. In their minds, they were just learning. They were literally getting smarter by struggling. This just turned everything she thought she knew on its head. So that one little moment kicked off decades of research, all driven by this one question. What was their secret? What did these kids know that so many of us adults have forgotten? How did they turn failure into a gift? The answer, as Dweck discovered, had nothing to do with how smart they were or some innate talent. Nope, it was something way deeper. These kids were basically living in a totally different psychological world, a world that was defined by their mindset. So, what even is a mindset? It's actually a really simple belief you hold about yourself. But don't let that fool you. This one little belief can steer a massive part of your life, from how you see your job to how you handle your relationships. Dweck basically found there are two main mindsets that people operate from. First, you've got the fixed mindset. This is the idea that your intelligence, your personality, your skills, they're just set in stone. You're born with what you're born with, and that's it. So your whole life becomes about proving you're smart enough, talented enough, but then there's the growth mindset. This is the belief that your basic abilities can be developed through hard work and dedication. It's not that some people aren't born with advantages, but that everyone can grow. The real goal isn't to prove you're good, it's to get good. And okay, this is where it gets really powerful because this one core belief changes everything. With a fixed mindset, you run from challenges because what if you try and look dumb? Effort seems like a bad thing. If you were a real genius, you wouldn't need to try, right? And failure? Oh, that's your worst nightmare. It's not an event, it becomes your identity. But switch over to a growth mindset and the entire world looks different. Challenges? They're exciting. They're chances to grow. Effort? That's the secret sauce. That's how you get good at anything. And failure? It's just a lesson. It's not a label, it's just helpful feedback. Okay, so if the growth mindset is so great, how do we get more of it in our lives and in our kids' lives? Well, this leads us to one of the most shocking and important findings from all of Dweck's work, the hidden danger of praise. Let me ask you this. What's the best way to praise a kid or even an adult to really build up their confidence? I mean, for most of us, the answer seems obvious. You're so smart. But you might want to hold that thought. So Dweck's team ran this brilliant experiment. They gave a bunch of students a pretty simple IQ test. Afterward, they praised them, but they praised them in two different ways. One group was told, "Wow, you must be really smart at this." The other group was told, "Wow, you must have worked really hard." And the results were just unbelievable. The kids who were praised for their effort, a whopping 90% of them wanted to try a harder puzzle next, one they could learn from. But the kids praised for being smart, the majority of them chose an easier puzzle. They didn't want to risk losing their smart label. And when the tests did get harder, the smart group's confidence just tanked. But the effort group, they stayed motivated and actually got better. And check this out, this part is just wild. Almost 40% of the smart kids lied about their scores later. They'd rather cheat than look like they weren't smart. So, the takeaway here is absolutely huge. When we praise intelligence, even with the best intentions, we're actually pushing people into a fixed mindset. We're teaching them to be afraid of challenges and to value looking smart over actually learning something. Hey, if these ideas are hitting home for you, do us a quick favor. Please like this explainer, hit that subscribe button for Bookish channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next one. It really helps us out. All right, so this all sounds great in a lab experiment. But what does it look like in the real world, when the stakes are super high? I mean, does this quote from Michael Jordan not just say it all? He's not listing his failures as proof that he's a loser. He's listing them as the very reason he's a winner. It's the perfect definition of a growth mindset. You see, for people with this mindset, For real champions, a setback isn't a verdict. It's not a label. It's just a wake-up call. It's your coach telling you, okay, time to put in more reps, time to work on that weak spot. Failure is just fuel. So this really brings the question right back to you, doesn't it? The next time you hit a wall or face a setback, listen to that little voice in your head. Is it saying, see, I told you weren't good enough? Or is it saying, okay, that didn't work. What can I learn from this? Which mindset is in the driver's seat for you? Now, maybe you're listening to all this and thinking, oh man, I am totally in the fixed mindset camp. Well, here comes the best, most hopeful part of this entire book. It doesn't matter where you are right now. Dweck's most powerful message is this: you are not stuck. You can absolutely change your mindset. And that's really the whole secret. A mindset feels so real, so permanent, but it's not. It's just a belief. It's a powerful one for sure, but it's just a story in your head, and you are always, always in charge of the stories you tell yourself. You can change your mind. So how do you actually do it? Well, Dweck gives us a pretty clear 4-step process. First, just start noticing that fixed mindset voice. You know the one. Second, when you hear it, just recognize, okay, that's a thought, but I have a choice here. Third, actively talk back to it. Answer that voice of doubt with a voice of growth. Like, I might not be able to do this yet, but I can learn. And finally, the most important part, take the growth mindset action. Embrace that challenge. Put in the effort. Because that's what it all comes down to. That passion for pushing yourself, for sticking with something, even when, especially when, it gets hard. That is the absolute hallmark of the growth mindset. It's what lets people truly thrive. So I want to leave you with one final question to really think about. Just imagine for a second, what could you do? What could you achieve? What could you become if you truly believed deep down that you could grow? If this explainer gave you something to think about, the single best way to support what we do is to share it. Send it to a friend or family member who might get something out of it and introduce them to Bookish channel. Thanks so much for watching.